Good evening, this is Lantern Glow Stories. Tonight's tale glows quietly in a familiar corner, where a small light was kept burning long after anyone needed it to. Settle in and let the lantern glow guide you into the night. The lamp stood on the small table beside the sofa, its shade slightly tilted, its cord carefully wrapped and tied. It was always on, not bright, just enough to soften the room. When Margaret Lewis returned to the house, the lamp was the first thing she noticed. Before the familiar scent of old books, before the quiet settled into her chest, the lamp. The house had belonged to her parents for decades, a place of evening conversations, shared meals, and long silences that were never uncomfortable. Now, the house waited for her, room by room, to be sorted and understood. Margaret set her suitcase down by the door and sat on the edge of the sofa. The lamp cast a gentle circle of light across the floor, unchanged. She reached out and touched the switch. It was warm. As a child, Margaret remembered asking about the lamp. "Why don't we ever turn it off?" she had whispered one night, already drifting toward sleep. Her mother had smiled, tucking the blanket around her shoulders. "So the room knows it's still needed." Margaret had accepted the answer then, without understanding it. She remembered it clearly now. She stood and walked slowly through the house. The hallway was dark, the kitchen quiet, every bedroom empty. Only the living room held light. Margaret returned to the sofa, letting the glow settle around her. The house felt attentive, as though it were listening for footsteps that no longer came. That evening, as darkness pressed gently against the windows, Margaret made tea and returned to the living room. She noticed something she had never seen before. The lamp's shade was stitched carefully along one seam, the thread nearly invisible. Curious, she lifted the shade slightly. Tucked inside, secured with a small safety pin, was a folded note. Margaret removed it slowly. The paper was thin, creased many times. The handwriting was her father's. "If you're reading this, it means you stayed." Margaret sat down heavily, the note resting in her hands. The note continued, "This light is not for the room. It's for the waiting. Some nights we leave it on because someone might need to find their way back, even if they don't." Margaret closed her eyes. She remembered evenings when her father sat in that chair, the lamp glowing softly beside him, eyes resting on the door. He never explained. He never needed to. As night deepened, the house made its quiet sounds, wood settling, air shifting. Margaret felt something then, not behind her, not beside her, around her, a presence that did not ask for attention, only acknowledgement. She spoke softly, her voice barely louder than the hum of the lamp. "I see it now," she said. The light remained steady. She stayed awake longer than she intended. The tea grew cold in her cup. The shadows shifted slowly across the walls. At some point, her eyes closed. When she woke later that night, the room was still dark. The lamp remained on, but the switch felt cooler now, as though it had rested. Margaret sat quietly for a long moment, listening to the house breathe. Morning light crept through the curtains. Margaret stood and walked to the lamp. She placed her hand on the switch again. This time, she turned it off. The room did not feel empty. Before leaving the house later that day, Margaret paused at the doorway. She turned the lamp back on, not for the room, for the waiting. And so tonight's gentle mystery glows softly in the quiet. A lamp left on, a path kept visible, and a belonging that never demanded return. Thank you for listening. Until our next story, Beneath the Lantern Light.